What's up, brothers? Welcome back to Book Nook Brews. Tuesday. Welcome back to
Literally, yeah.
yeah. We're recording
my
this on a
God.
Tuesday. But yeah, welcome back to Book Nook Brews, episode 10, where we are recapping chapters 9 through 15 of Circe by Madeline Miller.
Mm-hmm.
Brew of the day, the night.
Oh yeah, the night.
I myself am drinking a new one that we recently got, the Corona Familiar, which I guess is like Corona's dark beer now.
It tastes like a Corona, like a dark Corona extra. No, I don't know. It just.
What did I just fucking say?
Well, shit.
I said, which I guess is their dark beer now.
No, yeah, it is a dark beer, but it's just like it doesn't have like it's not something different. It really just tastes like another Corona extra, but just dark. Like, I know one of your cousins in the weekend had mentioned that. It's like, you know what? Jokingly, they said, he was like, maybe we should add lime to it. And I was like, honestly, though?
But you know why he said that, though, right?
Because of something.
Because of my incident.
Yeah, because of your incident with...
It was Modelo.
I thought it was Dos Equis. Oh, no, it was Modelo. No, it was Modelo. Because it was at...
Yes. It was the Modelo's dark beer, though.
Wait, no, yeah, because you tried it for the first time. It was so weird.
I don't know. But moral of the story is I put lime inside a dark beer without knowing that it was a dark. Like, I was setting it up for everybody, like all their Corona extras and the regular Modelos.
And you just automatically did it for yours.
Yeah, because it's kind of like a muscle memory.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, it's disgusting with lime. So, yeah, that's why he brought that up. Because it's like, hey, this needs some lime.
I know, that's why I say he said it jokingly, but
yeah, that's
why I'm like, honestly, on this one, I don't know if it wouldn't be bad. I'm just saying.
No.
Anyways, I am drinking a Smithwick's
Red Ale.
So delicious, so good. It's, I don't know. I've discovered now that, I mean, I like dark beers as well, but I also enjoy like a nice red ale. They just have such a nice taste. I know for you don't like them because you feel like they are a little hoppy, but I feel like this one, I don't get where you got the hoppy taste.
I don't know, dude. I just don't like fruity.
Yeah, you be a little weird sometimes.
Fruity beers.
But those were our brews of the night.
Yeah.
And
special beers, special drinks, special players. Tuesday.
Sorry for the late episode.
Busy weekend.
And yeah, we carried over to yesterday too, so we had just like no time.
Kind of a busy 4 days.
Well, in some little book news on my end, before I get to like some releases that I saw that are coming out in April, I finally finished A Court of Thorn and Roses, and I already told you my thoughts on it. I really enjoyed it. The ending surprised me a little bit, but I was right, and a lot of people told me the middle does drag out, but the ending of the book are like, it had such a nice pace, and I really enjoyed it. And now everyone I tell, or that I've shared that I finished A Court of Thorn and Roses, everyone's telling me that they're like, now read the next few books, and it's like, dude, I need to read the next one of A Court of Thorn and Roses. I need to read Iron Flame. And then someone also mentioned to me Throne of Glass. And oh my gosh, I just want to read all these series, and I need like 10 plus years so I can feel like I can enjoy all my books. Not 10 plus years. I just feel like I need more time, even though I have time. But you know, poor you. You just get to hear me just talk more about these. And like me trying to when I was what made me laugh so much is that when I was telling you about like the plot of the first book of A Court of Thorn and Roses, you're like, so every little thing you're like, this sounds like Twilight. This sounds like Hotel Transylvania. Like there's so many things that you could like. I don't need to read it.
It sounds like
I've already seen these movies.
It sounds like a mashup of just different things that already exist. So I'm like, okay. So I just gotta binge movies and we're good.
You're like, I'll just hear it from you. It's okay. And I'm like, it's fine, because it's like I know that series is not your cup of tea at all. And like I know that first book, if it took me a little long to just get through the middle, I know it would have taken you like way longer.
If I kept going, I probably would have put it down.
Yeah, true. That's So finally finished that one. My next one is from a mystery pile that your sisters, and your cousin gifted me about 2 years ago for one of my birthdays. And this one was, I think it's from your little sister. I could have sworn it was.
I think so.
But it's called Maxie's Secrets. It's like it's a young adult or even younger book, but it's so cute. It's about a dog who has passed away, but the child, or the one who was one of the owners of the dog, he's sharing the secrets that he's learned from the dog, and it's just so cute. It's a cute little read. It's a cute little cozy one. And hopefully the next one I get to read is, I'll have it on our bedside. But anyways, I'm excited. I'm like slowly getting back into the groove of reading a little bit more consistently, aside from just like our book club, which brings me to the book that we'll be reading for next month. And I'll also mention at the very end, but I've had this again. This is a book that I've had on my shelf. At this point, I'm just shopping for my shelf. But it's called Portrait of a Thief by Grace Dealey. And I think you're going to like this one. Yeah. Because the main focus is not like romance or anything. So I know this is like going to be right up your alley. Yeah. I don't think I want you to read the blurb just yet. But I do think you're going to enjoy it. Like this book, I got it recommended by the author R.F. Kuang, who wrote The Poppy War and Babel. Yeah. So I saw it. I saw that she recommended it, or had like wrote a review on it, and I was like, you know what, I want to give it a try. So I bought it, and I haven't got into it, but I feel like it's a nice book for May. So yeah. All right. I guess now we can.
Were you not going to bring up the book news that you?
Oh my god!
That was the whole point of that transition.
Oh my gosh! Yes. Okay, so I said I wanted to like mention some little book news. So for the month of April, I saw 3 authors that are coming out with a book this month. 2 of them have already come out on April 2nd, meaning I just need to go buy more books. And one comes out later this month. But 2 that I wanted to mention was I've told you that I recently started following Abby Jimenez on TikTok and now just all social media. This woman goes viral for so many different things. I love it. She's just I never expected this, but she has a book that came out on April 2nd called Just for the Summer. And then Chloe Liez came out with Only and Forever, also on April 2nd. Chloe Liez, she's the one who I told you about. It's from the Bergerman series, but this series is just so good. But it's one where I believe she's self-published and is now getting published.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I want to buy all of the books from that series because I've always enjoyed them. Like, from the moment I found them, I was like, oh, so good. And then later on this month, I saw that Emily Henry is coming out with another book. It's called Funny Story. And I'm just saying, I have all these in my what I need to read next. So love that. But those are at least like little book news from my end. So yeah, I'm excited. I need to go to the bookstore again. My therapy. My TikTok I show you. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into the recap. Alrighty, so this week or last week we read chapters 9 through 15, and let's get into it. So chapter 9. Daedalus comes to Circe's island to tell her that her sister Pasiphae has requested her presence for her child's birth, and her exile will be temporarily lifted for this trip. Circe decides to go. However, Daedalus tells Circe that for them to go back, they have to go through the path where Scylla lives. And this is per Pasiphae's request. This is the same path they took to get to Circe's island, and unfortunately, they lost 12 men. So the travel begins. As they inch closer to Scylla's area, Circe dresses herself as a man and puts a paste on her lips that hopefully create an illusion on her face to look like her brother, Perseus, because she remembered that Scylla was infatuated with him. They get to where Scylla lives, and Circe tries to distract her by telling her, as Perseus, that Perseus and Pasiphae have been looking for her cue to turn her back. And for a moment, it seemed like Scylla paid attention. However, Scylla continues to lunge at them, so Circe throws a potion into one of her throats, casting a spell that would hopefully turn her back, but it only aggravates her more. But they get through it with no men lost. The men try to praise Circe, but she tells them that they shouldn't, because she's the reason why that beast even exists, or was created. Chapter 10. They arrive at Crete?
Yeah.
Yeah. They arrive at Crete, and she's brought to her sister immediately, who turns out to be in labor. Pasiphae requested Circe's help to get her baby out because it was complicated. So Circe helps her, and as she reaches for the baby, it bites down on her. She gets it out and wraps it around a blanket just to even get a hold of it. Circe immediately asks Pasiphae how this happened, and it was all because her sister decided to have sex with a sacred white bull that was given to them by a god. And somehow this is all Daedalus's fault that she got pregnant from it. It was strange. Later, Circe goes for a walk and decides to try and see if she has the gift of prophecy like her father. She looks at the water and tells it, "Show me," and it does. The water shows her that the creature dies to a mortal man with a sword. With that in mind, she grabs some herbs from Mont Dicte and heads back to Daedalus, where she meets Ariadne, one of Pasiphae's daughters. Circe tells Daedalus what she discovered, and that while they cannot kill this creature right now, they can only contain him, and that she created a spell to keep its appetite at bay for 3 seasons of the year. She then tells Pasiphae and her husband, Minos. However, he just wants her dead, and then he continues to argue with Pasiphae. Chapter 11. Regardless of Minos not wanting the creature, he still decides to name it after him and gives him the name Minotaur. Circe realizes this was all just part of Pasiphae's plan to just essentially give birth to something that would give meaning to her life, or make her more important, right?
Yeah.
So Circe goes over to the Minotaur's cage and casts a spell on it. Once she finishes, Daedalus asks Circe if she will dine with him after the feast, and she accepts. At his place, she meets Icarus, his son. They have a nice little meal together where they talked about where Daedalus would want to go if he were not stuck at Crete, and that's pretty much where it ends. Afterward, Circe walks over to her sister to demand the true reason why she requested her there. Pasiphae tells her that regardless of how many times people walk over Circe and squashed her, she would always get back up and come back. She hated her family and thought that Circe hated them as well. Helios and them only care if you give them power. They don't care if you're wicked or well-behaved. If you don't give them power, then you're worthless to them. She also tells Circe that Aeetes has never liked a woman in his life. The only reason he stuck around Circe was because, in her words, she's a tame monkey and would always clap at every word he spoke. Pasiphae called for Circe to help her because she wouldn't make her beg or even ask for anything in return. She knew she would do it regardless. Circe leaves for her quarters and Daedalus is there, waiting for her. She asks him to stay and they spend the night together. Before she leaves the next day. Daedalus gives her a loom and I believe like other little goodies to go around with it. And she leaves the next day. She later finds out from Hermes that Icarus died because he flew too close to the sun, and soon after, Daedalus also passed on. Chapter 12. Circe is back in Aiaia and returns to her regular life. One day, Hermes comes over and tells Circe how Ariadne died. She fell in love with a mortal prince who was sent over by a king as punishment. The prince, Theseus?
I believe so.
Yeah, Theseus, right? Was supposed to die as food for the Minotaur. But Ariadne taught him the way out of the labyrinth and gave him a sword. When he came out, covered in the Minotaur's blood, she cried in sadness. Regardless, she still fled with him, but Theseus was told to drop her off on an island for Dionysus. She was dropped off, but Dionysus came too late. Artemis had already killed her. Chapter 13. A ship stops on Aiaia, and two people come down to ask for Circe to perform catharsis on them, a cleansing by smoke and prayer, water and blood. She can't ask them why, but she agrees. Circe performs the rite, and that is when the woman reveals herself. Circe immediately recognizes her as the daughter of Aeetes, Medea. Jason, heir of kingdom of Iolcos, starts telling Circe his story. His kingdom is under siege by his uncle. The only way he can get it back is by retrieving his golden fleece kept in Colchis. Colchis?
That one I don't know.
We'll just say it's Colchis. Aeetes' land. Hera and Zeus blessed him on his journey, and once he landed, Aeetes told him he could have it if he completed some task in a single day, and he agreed. This is where Medea interrupts and continues with these tasks would be accomplished wouldn't be able to be accomplished in a day, and Aeetes knew it. He just didn't want to give up the fleece. Medea helped Jason with a spell, and he ran for the ship. They both fled and took her brother as a hostage, and Aeetes was pissed. Medea saw that nothing made Aeetes stop with his fury, so she commanded Jason to kill her brother. She then chopped up his body and tossed it to the sea. Only then did Aeetes stop to give his child a proper burial. That is why they sought out someone to perform the catharsis rite. We also find out that Aeetes is not as nice as Circe paints him to be. He essentially tortures men who come to his island looking to prove themselves. He even tried to trade his daughter off to another sorcerer/god who would pay him with exotic poison. But he couldn't find one, so he offered Medea to Perseus, but he already has someone else chained up. And apparently, Perseus and Aeetes are best friends. All of this rang bells in Circe's mind because this is what Pasiphae tried to tell Circe, yet she wouldn't believe it up until now. Circe tried to tell Medea that she should look for someone else instead of Jason, as she saw some red flags in him when they spoke, but Medea refuses to listen to her and they left her island. Later, Aeetes would show up, demanding Circe to give him her daughter, but she already left. Aeetes tells Circe he should punish her, but she reminds him that they are in her land, not in his right now, and so he leaves. Chapter 14. Soon more misbehaved daughters start to show up on Circe's island. She tries to tell Hermes to tell the gods to not send like their misbehaved childs to her island, but he says he can't really do anything about it. He's just a messenger. just deal with it. Then one day, a flight of men come by the island. Circe treats them to a feast, but only once they find out that she's there alone, the captain takes advantage of her. This is where Circe's beginnings of turning men into pigs begin. Chapter 15. This starts to become a habit of turning more flights of men into pigs. It's like clockwork. After they find out she lived alone, the captain of the ship would always attempt to take advantage of her, only for all of them to turn into pigs thanks to a spell that she placed in their drinks. Until one day, one of the captains didn't. And this is where we finally meet Odysseus. He didn't fall for any of her witchcraft because he had Molly in his bag. They share some banter, and finally she tells him she will give him his men if he essentially proves his loyalty to her. And I think we agreed to this when we were talking about it yesterday. It's like she's almost telling him, like, I'll give you your men if you like prove your trust to me, but also, you know, it is him getting into her bed, no, right?
Well, she wants to get him into her bed.
And
that way proving his trust, apparently.
Okay. And he accepts if she swears she won't hurt him the moment he puts down the Molly. And so she does. And that's how these chapters end this week. What are your thoughts?
It's funny because I don't think I really have. I don't know. It's one thing I've found with this book is I don't really have thoughts about it.
Right.
It's like, I don't know. It's like kind of reading like a recap of
what we
like
learned.
Stories that I've heard before.
Mm-hmm.
It is interesting to see from Circe's point of view, but it's also like I feel the stories are kind of just being brushed off. Like I kind of feel like we're learning about the story, like we basically get introduced to the story, right? It's like, hey, by the way, this is gonna be the story about this, and then it's just how Circe feels about it, and then boom, next thing.
Yeah. How
Circe feels about it, boom, next thing. Now I feel like it's gonna get into the whole Odyssey thing.
I was gonna tell you that. Remember how I had asked you? I was like, did I do it again?
Yeah.
Because we thought this in these set of chapters that we would meet Odysseus.
Yeah.
Or have the Odyssey story.
Yeah.
And that's what you had thought we were getting into. And as we kept reading, like, no, like, where is it?
Yeah.
And finally we get to the last chapter, the last few bits of the story. And we meet the man, the myth, the legend, Odysseus.
But then we get to the Odyssey thing, and it sounds like it's going to be, I don't know, from the looks of it, it's going to, like, that's going to be the story it's going to be focusing on. And it's like, well...
You think that's the main chunk of the story?
I think so.
Okay.
Obviously, because that's the story that everybody knew Circe from. So I feel like rather than a retelling of Circe's stories, it's like, okay, here's how she felt about this, here's how she felt about that. Now let's get to the main point, the Odyssey. And it's like, well, that wasn't really the point of it. Like, the point of it was, hey, retell these stories and how she felt about it. You know, it's not like brush everything else off, get to the Odyssey. That's what I was afraid it was going to be. Like, I think we mentioned it in the first one. I'm like, I hope it's not just about the Odyssey.
And I mean, so far we've seen essentially the path leading up to the Odyssey. No, did he know about like the misbehaved like the daughters?
nymphs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the nymphs being sent. I didn't know. For me, this is all new.
Yeah.
Because I don't know anything about Circe at all.
Yeah. See, and I feel like that's where that book.
Not even the Odyssey.
That's where the book hits. I think where
Mm-hmm.
it's like, it's a, like I think I said it in the last episode,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like people were even saying, it's a good reintroduction, or just introduction, to all the gods and all the demigods and whatever their kids, all that kind of stuff.
And it's very well told.
Yeah.
Because at least, like every character we've met, we've kind of get like a little brief recap about their ending. Like we find out about Ariadne,
Mm-hmm.
Daedalus, Icarus, which Icarus, I had known about him because of Full Metal, because he makes a reference to it, like
Really?
within I think it's the second episode, where it's like he flew too close to the sun.
Yeah.
And
Like that, the Dallas and Icarus story is something like I learned about like in elementary. Like that's like one of the first ones that I learned about. And so like to see it here again, I'm like, oh wow, no way. And then it just kind of like just all right.
yeah.
By
it
the way,
was
the son
very
died, and
so
then
small.
he also died. Next
yeah,
page.
that was all done within a paragraph,
Yeah.
which I was like, damn, I kind of wish I knew a little bit more, because I was interested in Icarus a little bit more due to me hearing about him in Full Metal, and I
Yeah.
forgot which other story, but I see what you mean, where it, like, you learn from them, but just not so much, I guess.
Yeah, like I guess for like you, for like someone who doesn't have that much like previous knowledge of mythology characters and stuff
Yeah.
like that, it's cool because it like piques your interest.
Mhm.
But for then, like, there's others where it's like you already knew about all these stories and you're seeing them here, and then just kind of get brushed off.
Okay, I see that.
That's where I'm like, like, I kind of knew this stuff, and I'm just learning how she feels really quickly about it, and then move on to the next little story, how she feels about that next little story. And I feel like we're gonna end up focusing on how she felt and reacted to everything in the Odyssey. And I was like, yeah. But I mean, that's really the only thought I have gathered so far. It's kind of like it's a good read, but it's not what I expected it to be, at least. Like it's
Interesting. Okay.
It's I don't know. I don't know yet. We'll see at the end, but so far it's
Yeah, because
kinda-
right now we're just at barely the midpoint, or if not like a little past it,
I think we're a little past the midpoint. Yeah.
because I think it ends like around chapter 24, right?
I believe so. Yes.
I know it's not that many chapters.
27,
27. Okay.
and we're in 16.
16. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So we're past the halfway point,
Yeah, we got 10
and we're
chapters
just
left.
about to get into the Odyssey, which I was surprised. I don't know. I feel like Circe is she's such a late bloomer. She's a little slow, or almost naive in some way of how she thinks.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think a lot of it has to do where like no one really paid so much attention to her, and everyone just kind of brushed her off and like left her to someone else or to just her own devices. And so a lot of it she's had to grow up on her own, but she's essentially grown up in a palace. Like she's never had to go through any hardships
Yeah.
or like been with anyone to see that, and so she's learning everything on her own. But that's why I kind of see her a little bit as naive sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and like a late bloomer in some ways, because she just now found out that she has the gift of prophecy, or attempted the gift of prophecy. I mean, granted, now she's practiced her own gift as well, but now we know she does have the gift of prophecy. But did you always did you always know that Aetes was just, a douchebag, in other terms? Or did you even know about him?
I had heard the name, and you kind of just like that's the thing with mythology. You're kind of like taught, it's like, hey, all the gods are assholes.
Yeah.
All the gods, all everything that has to do with them. And then you get these little stories where it's like some of them are okay, whatever. So I kind of heard his name, but I also like had his name associated with, like you said, douchebag, like a lot of them. So that's why I was like interested in reading Circe, because it was like, okay, if we can like tackle like one person at a time, and if this author can make them be seen in a different way other than, hey, God equals douchebag,
Yeah.
like
True.
it's like it'd be cool, So I guess because I mean in the Odyssey they made Circe seem like the evil one, but then now you learn why and all that stuff, and like obviously like you didn't need the book to do that. Like you could have learned about Circe in a different way, and it would have been the same thing. But it's like it's cool to see it from the perspective of herself, right?
The character herself, or
Yeah.
the god herself. And I think something that stood out to me the most is Pasiphae's moment with her.
Yeah.
Like their little bickering, or the argument they had, where she's like, why would I go to Persis? Like, you have no idea the things that like I went through being next to him. And then AET has never liked a woman in his life.
Yeah.
And granted, like we only know AET's from like a couple of pages, but he never really seemed like he cared about Circe. I mean, he was like, nah, get your own kingdom.
Yeah.
Screw you.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's like we're taught with the idea that all these gods are, just assholes. They're like, they only care about themselves. They don't care about anything except themselves and their power, or even getting more power. But I don't know if I see that with Circe so far. And maybe this is just because we're reading it from her point of view right now. She's really just had to do a lot of things to her, like on her own. Like I said, she's been left to her own devices. She has to grow up her own way.
Yeah.
Like her turning men to pigs, like for her reasons, it makes sense. It's like they just want to take advantage of her, and she's like, okay, try it, do it. I dare you.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about the Odyssey story because I don't remember it from when we had to read it, and so now I'm just.
Yeah.
I know you wanted me to. He was like, "Oh, this is gonna be nice for you to finally learn it," and it's like, we didn't get to it this week. We're gonna get into it next week.
Yeah. Did you know about the Minotaur?
I didn't know that's his origin story. I had no idea. You did?
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. And then that's also what I didn't like. They kind of just brushed off the fact. I mean, didn't really have to go too in depth because it's not their story. But Theseus killing the Minotaur, like that's another like huge story. Like went into the labyrinth and sailed off with Ariadne off of Crete.
Why did he have to drop her off at Dionysus like on that island? Do you know that part? Because I didn't really get that from the book. It just says like Zeus told him to drop off Ariadne at the island for Dionysus, and that's it. And then Artemis killed her, which I feel like I might have heard like a story similar to that, but I just don't know why she was even sent there in the first place.
Yeah, so Dionysus was sent Ariadne as like to be her bride. Like Dionysus was captivated by her beauty and all that. Like, so she was being sent to Dionysus to be married. And
she
so
fled
like
with Theseus.
Huh?
But she fled with Theseus because they were in love, no? Or was it just she loved him and he did not?
So he was sent to Dionysus, orders Theseus to leave her as he is captivated by her beauty and wants her for his own bride. Theseus cannot refuse the god, so he gives Ariadne up.
Damn,
because it's like, that was whatever the gods say goes.
And then Artemis goes ahead and kills her for no reason. We don't ever find out for what reason. She just apparently she's hot tempered, but it's like, what'd she do to you? She's just there sleeping.
Yeah.
That we know of.
But yeah, it's like that. Like that's what I kind of meant. Like it's like there's stories like that just get like brushed off, but it makes sense because it's not.
It's not their. This book is not their story.
Yeah.
It's Circe. So yeah, I see what you mean. It's like you wish you had a little bit more, but it's again, it's not their story. It's Circe's story.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, I had another thought and then I just forgot. Aside from the Odyssey, are there any more stories that you know of Circe, or is that just the only one that you know of her?
Stories, that's the only one I kind of like have. I guess like still in one of the files in the cabinets in my brain.
Okay.
I know her like by name and like other things, but I don't know stories of her. Like the whole story of her turning, what was his name? Glaukos?
Glaukos, yes.
Yeah, like that. Like I knew who Glaukos was. I didn't know the story behind that.
Oh, okay.
And just because, I mean, he was always a god that didn't really, Matt, like, who's god of the fishermen? Like, bro, like, you've already got god of the ocean. So
yeah.
It's like, well, who gives a fuck about the fishermen? So it was like, I knew, like, I know these little, like, pieces. And then Circe comes along and I'm like, oh, Circe was part of that. I did not know that. Because I never go into these things, like, full detail unless I'm, like, fully interested in it.
Yeah.
Like the whole like battle of the labyrinth, like for the Minotaur, and just like stuff like that. I've always been interested in, and I go into. But I've never gone into anything that had Circe involved.
Okay. Did you know that the Minotaur, like he had his his hunger, like essentially
For the season?
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
That's why he's that he was put in the labyrinth. Like it's like because of his what are they called? Bloodlust? Bloodthirst?
Bloodlust. I don't know if it's a lust. But thirst a little bit more. You're like, yeah. Okay.
But yeah,
geez.
that's the well, yeah, like they said here, that's the spell that was put on it. It was like you get a hunting
why
season.
These stories never like stuck with me to where I remember. But
well, because stuff like that wasn't really told.
No.
Like it wasn't taught. Like I think like those stories, I think I learned them from art.
Okay.
Back in elementary, but they always like captured my attention from then,
So
and I took it upon myself to learn about it.
Okay. Because I feel like I only read it if we were told to read it like in school.
I think it was art class.
A lot of it, like I don't know, I just had way too much to do. I did it just so you guys know, I did too much in high school or just in school. I would always try to go above than what I needed to.
Yeah.
Like what senior takes all 7 classes when I could have gone late or left early? Like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Like, that was me taking like almost like 7 AP classes.
Yeah.
I mean, some of it paid off, but that's something else.
Yeah.
I just that's like, this is where you're coming from for me. Like I enjoy reading and I enjoy like Greek mythology and everything, but there's just so much.
Yeah.
And I feel like some stories, like good thing about stories like these that are being told in another perspective or retold, it makes it a little bit more digestible. And that's what I was scared of going into the story, is that I feel like the reason why we read these stories in like school was because we had to learn from the very almost cryptic language. It was very old, and we were always told, it's like, all right, what does this mean? Like it was very metaphor heavy, or the language is so old, and so I was always scared to like fully read a Greek mythology book, was because I thought they were all just gonna be like this. Yeah,
like a bunch of words, old lingo, and just a bunch of metaphors that, like you said, were cryptic. And you found out actually meant something completely different than what it said. Like that's where all the assignments were and stuff like that. It's like, hey, decipher this thing about like plants, oceans, whatever, and it actually a metaphor for a fucking door. It's like, yeah, but yeah, it does make it a little, like you said, digestible. It's easy to read and see what the author's saying. So
it's like there are some moments where I don't fully understand it, like, and so I'm like, okay, let me just reread it like a couple of times, and that's where I've gone to you because you've done your homework on some of these stories. Like you've known them, you've read them like years ago. So like that's I mentioned it earlier. I went to you yesterday and I was like, hey, I'm just writing this for the recap. I just want to make sure I understand this correctly.
Yeah.
Let me go over this with you. This is the only time I've broken the rule of talking about the book because I just want to make sure that I'm getting the details right when I'm doing the recap.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it kind of alludes to what may happen, and alluding to it is way better than having to, like, you know, take 10 minutes to decipher what this metaphor about flowers and herbs means if she's just walking at a pond and
I feel like that's also what added to like you not remembering it, because if we had just like read straight through it and then watched the movie, cool, but we read one page and we'd have to do a worksheet on this one paragraph and then read the next part and then again, and it took like a cool little, you know, story that we could have read in like a week turned out to be 2 months worth of the grade. And it's like, dude, what? Like,
exactly. And it's like, you guys talk about this being like so many good stories, but you're just wanting us to decipher it in a worksheet and make sure we understand. And it's like, I guess, but is this really what we need? Like, I don't know. I get it, and then sometimes I just don't get it. I'm sorry. But and I'd like to pride myself in thinking that I enjoyed like reading and like enjoying the descriptive nature and written language, but sometimes it can be a lot to where I'm like, is this really necessary? Because I remember this is back when in my creative writing classes, when we had to like turn in little short stories. And I remember every now and then, either me or if we were giving feedback to someone else, we're like, this is very great descriptive language, but it's also very flowery and also not needed. It's very cushiony to where it's like you could have brought this down to like maybe 2 sentences or 1.
Yeah.
Rather than a whole like half a page.
Right.
And so, and I feel like that's where a lot of writers may have just gotten it from these classes we took in high school. And then you get to upper level or like these stories that do get published, and it's like that's not what you see.
Yeah.
And so this is like a tangent, but I've always found that interesting in how you see it get praised in high school because you're trying to decipher it, yet once you get to like college or you're reading these like other books, it's like it's not there.
Right.
They make it digestible because to the average person, when they read, they just want to escape or read about something and not have to, you know, break their head over it per se. So going back to the main thing, this book makes Greek mythology stories very digestible.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed it. And I'm really glad you chose this book. And there is another book on my shelf that I think you would enjoy a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I told you that I thought it was Greek mythology, and I read the back of it. I was like, Odin. I was like, wait, that's not.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wait, this is Norse mythology.
Which I think is probably even better. Like, I
feel like that's more a little in line to what you've gotten interested in now.
Yeah.
Rather than before.
Yeah.
It's still 2 interests that you enjoy to like get into, but I feel like Norse mythology is probably the one right now.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, I think so. I think back then it was Greek, now at the moment, I think it's Norse, but just in general, mythology is just something that always
Captured your attention.
captured my attention. So
I'll leave
yeah.
that book out for you in case you just want to, take a look
Yeah.
at it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think that's pretty
it.
much it. It's been it's been a long time, but I'm enjoying this book.
Same.
But I'm really excited to get into the Odyssey story because I feel like that's where we're going to have a little bit more to talk about.
Yeah.
Because it's coming from me who has not really, I don't remember it that much.
Yeah.
So I'll get to ask
Pick
him, like,
my brain.
Yeah, I'm like, is this what you remember? And
be
I
like
feel like you'll
a good little
begin a lot.
compare and contrast.
True.
Yeah, but that's going to be in chapters 16 through 21 next week. And then after that, we got chapters 22 through 27. And that's pretty much it.
That's the end of the book, huh?
That's the end of it. And I feel like it's going to be a short book, but also because of what we've been talking about, it's not something that we can that has like that filler in it, where it's because it's already, the story's made up, you're only getting her point of view, so it's not filling anything for any other characters or anything like that.
It's just like little short stories in a bigger story.
Yeah,
that's what it is. And it's a really good read so far. I like it. It's different to what I feel like we usually read, or what I usually read.
Yeah.
So yeah, next week, chapters 16 through 21. And then again, just a reminder, May, we're reading Portrait of a Thief by Grace D. Lee. If you can still be able to grab it at your local bookstore, please do. Por favor. Por favor. But if it's no longer there, however you may be able to purchase this, please do. But if you can't from your local bookstore, please support them. They need it. Also, if not, there's always, you can try to get it on hold or borrow it from the Libby app, which really all you need is just your library card. It sounds like a sponsorship, but I just really like the Libby app because you can just read free books from your library on your phone or Kindle or iPad, XYZ, computer, whatever you choose to do. Anyways, highly recommend it. Take a look at it. It's my favorite little thing to use, but that's that. That's a wrap for this week.
Yep.
We'll see you next week. Bye.
Good night, brothers.